All week, we've had Market Monitor guests giving you stock picks for 2015, and we continue that tonight with our friend Richard Steinberg, who says we are in a show-me environment right now. He's president of Steinberg Global Asset Management. Rich, Happy New Year. Always good to see you.
You too, Bill. Good to see you.
I mentioned we've had 6 consecutive gains in the market, annualized. You're a big value player. Do you still see good value in this market right now?
Listen, I want to go into this year more bullish than I currently am, Bill. Earnings have come down just from like December 4th or 5th from 130 in the S&P down to 126. We're still at 130, but when you apply a 16 multiple, you get to 2,100. We're hearing these 8 and 10% return numbers, but it's going to take a big show me in earnings increases and potentially a multiple expansion. When interest rates go up, oftentimes you get a little bit of lift in multiples, but I think it's going to really depend on what happens with earnings calls early in this quarter.
I mean, you sound like somebody who's going to have to be more selective to find value. You're going to have to take this almost on a stock-by-stock basis, aren't you?
Yes, and also even in the ETF space, investors have to be very target-oriented. If they own something, they better know where full valuation is. They can cut it back, but we're going to be in a volatile period, Bill, and you're going to have opportunities to pick up cheap names. So even though the market may kind of run in place for a little bit, there'll be fits and starts to make money.
Let's talk about stocks where you do find value right now. Macy's in the retail sector.
So Macy's is trading at 13 times earnings. We have a $75 target. Thesis that you and I have talked about before is we do think that the consumer, especially at the low to mid end, is going to get a boost from energy prices. And you have great management, and you have weak competitors in JCPenney and Sears.
Gilead Sciences, in a sector that's been very volatile, it typically is, but why do you like this one? I guess you think it's still valuable.
Well, this name got busted up a little bit because AbbVie, which we also own, did a deal with Express Scripts to be the top Hep C drug for Express Scripts in terms of being reimbursed. So investors sold off Gilead. The stock's trading very cheaply at under 10 times earnings. In the next 4 years, they'll throw off close to $50 billion in cash flow. Even if they use $25 billion of that to reinvest in their pipeline, we think it's really cheap and a really solid name with a $120 target.
Okay, and then everybody's watching energy. Those of us consumers enjoy the decline in energy prices. Is it time to buy energy stocks? You like Devon Energy in that sector. Why?
This is in our growth portfolio. They're 80% hedged next year with West Texas over $90. The stock is trading at 1.1 times book, and we think that it's probably a more conservative way if money comes back into energy to buy the stock. We have a $75 target. All 3 of these stocks are in our growth portfolio. I don't own them personally, but they're in our firm's growth portfolio.
I know there are always things that keep you up nights. Let me ask you one about that a lot of investors want to know about the Federal Reserve and when they start raising rates and what you think the market's response will be to that.
Well, let's talk about what's happened to the 10-year, right? The 10-year is down to sub 2.25% right now. So the bond market is actually giving us a little bit of cushion when the Fed starts to increase. I think they're going to be very methodical in their increases as a quarter of a point at a time. Don't forget, if you have a strong dollar and a weak euro, and you have QE going on in Europe, it's going to be very hard for the Fed to increase rates too much too quickly because it'll become anti-competitive for U.S. companies selling abroad and could hurt job growth. And we know that people are focusing on job growth in the markets and in Washington.
That is for sure. Richard Steinberg of Steinberg Global Asset Management. Thanks, Rich. Have a good weekend.